the idea that you could have this sort of violent clash with African Americans attempting to vote, and let's also just be honest, attempting to vote Republican. And then you have almost no reaction.
In the election of 1868, African American men were able to vote for the first time due to the passage of the 15th Amendment. Racial tensions were high post-war, especially in the South, where a tragedy occurred on Election Day in Asheville, North Carolina. This election riot of 1868 showcased a divided South, where conservative Democrats clashed with black freedmen who mostly voted Republican. Tensions began on Election Day morning, when an African American man named James Smith went to the polling place and was refused the vote by the clerk due to an alleged felony committed by Smith. Smith demanded proof, and the clerk did not comply, so a fight broke out between the two, with bystanders breaking up the fight. Later in the day, another African American man named Silas announced he voted for the Democrats, and a group of black men in the square were outraged because they were denied their vote due to their Republican affiliation. A group of white men heard the commotion and got into an altercation with the black men in the square, sparking the riot. The details of the riot are muddy, no thanks to the partisan coverage of the event, as the Charlotte Western Democrat paper claimed that the black men were the instigators, brandishing bludgers and firing first at a white man, to which the group of whites fired back and threw rocks. The Raleigh Weekly Standard paper presented the other point of view, refusing to point fingers until a proper investigation was made. Despite the blurry details, the facts remain that one African American was killed and 7 to 8 others wounded. This event is indicative of continuing racial struggles after emancipation and the deep partisan divisions in the South. The response to this riot led the Republicans in Asheville to reach out to the agents in the Freedmen's Bureau. After agents were recalled on a statewide withdrawal on the 4th of November, the responsibility to manage the riot's fallout fell to the local leaders to deal with and prevent future events like this. Locals took no action, but Republicans told Governor Holden it was the Democrats in the area trying to intimidate voters and turn the tide of the election. This accusation turned out to be true, as the votes in Asheville did not add up with a discrepancy of 130 more votes than registered voters. The outcome of the Asheville Election Riot of 1868 was a case of political extremism, likely involving members of the Ku Klux Klan.
It appears as if, not that they get away with it, but on a broad sense, they may not get away with the crime, but they got away with the intimidation and the violence that helps to sort of check African American political participation. So it certainly encourages further action and further development on the part of the Klan.
Violent acts like the Asheville Election Riot were not isolated events. The Ku Klux Klan continued to spread fear throughout the South, promoting white supremacy and the conservative Democratic Party. KKK violence began to escalate in North Carolina while the group gained support and power. In 1870, 2 years after the Asheville Election Riot, Governor Holden had enough of the KKK, which led him to organize a militia and fight back against the Klan. This led to his impeachment, paving the way for the Ku Klux Klan to gain more power in North Carolina and across the South. Events sparked by Klan violence, like the Asheville Election Riot and Holden's impeachment, worked to establish Democratic redemption in North Carolina, which greatly affected Reconstruction in many decades after. Reconstruction in North Carolina was hampered by the conservative Democrats and the Ku Klux Klan, as events like the 1868 Asheville Election Riot prohibited growth to push the nation forward racially. Smaller acts of violence like the 1868 riot acted as a gateway to suppressing black freedom and reasserting white control. Ultimately, this unrest culminated in future Jim Crow laws and segregation a few decades later that would change the course of American history.
Clearly, white conservatives can shoot black men at the polls and stop them from voting and not be deterred. And that sort of level of creeping doubt about the solidity, the sort of alliance that they had with white Republicans It's always going to be there.